All right, we'll get into some of that polling today. One Nation, of course, regaining the ground it lost last month, now sitting level with Labor on a 30% primary. This is News poll, so a very reputable poll. The coalition's also seen a 2-point boost. It's still well behind, though, on 19%. The Prime Minister is in the lead. Anthony Albanese as preferred PM. Pauline Hanson sitting ahead of Angus Taylor. Joining me now to discuss this and a whole lot more, Senior Fellow at the Menzies Research Centre, Nick Cater, and former Liberal MP Nicole Flint. Welcome to you both. Nick, you've written beautifully today in The Australian about the rise of Hanson and One Nation. You really pulled it apart. You're sceptical, yes, of her long-term ability to lead, but you're saying that she's there and she's strong and she's continuing to stay high in the polls because she's filling gaps that are absent on the right.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote in The Australian more than a year ago after the last election that there was a Farage-shaped hole, if you like, opened up in the electorate. You know, more than a third of people voted none of the above. They were looking for a force-like reform in the UK to turn to. There didn't appear to be one at the time, but it's since emerged that it's Pauline Hanson and One Nation. Everybody who voted none of the above, certainly on on the centre right, has gravitated to One Nation. And they're not going away, Peter. And I think the people who think that Pauline Hanson's words or actions in the last week or so are going to spell the end for her, I've read that in the 9 newspapers, they clearly don't understand what she represents. It's the none of the above vote. It is the we're sick of the lot of you vote. They've had it with the mainstream political parties. It's going to take a lot to win them back. And, a few headlines about Pauline Hanson's indiscreet remarks is not going to budge these polls one iota, in my view.
Yeah, Nick, I just played those remarks, Nicole Flint. I just played those remarks at the top of the program. There was a response, we hear it across most of the commercial media, but there was also a strong response today from Greens Senator Sarah Hanson-Young. Let's listen.
Picture this. A party once laughed off as a fringe experiment is now running neck and neck with the party that has governed Australia for most of the last decade. Not a headline from 1998. That is happening right now, this month in 2026. Quick favour, if you are loving this breakdown, let me see you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell to stay informed. Thank you. Now, let us get back to it.
She will try to slip and slide like the trickiest politician. And Pauline Hanson has been in politics for 30 years. 30 years. She is tricky. She's one of the trickiest politicians out there. She says that she knows exactly what she's doing.
Now, this is interesting, Nicole. This is coming straight out of focus groups here because for a long time, they've tried to claim that Pauline Hanson was naive, that she was stupid, that she's sort of a blunt instrument, that she's coarse, all of those things. Now they're reminding people that she's not new. She's been there for 30 years. So, don't just adopt the shiny, bright thing, but also that she's tricky, that she's cunning, that this is all very practiced. So there's a shift now the Greens are taking her on. There's certainly been a shift with the Prime Minister. The Coalition, I think, is still not sure at all how they play her. Do they attack her? Do they leave her out of the conversation? And the mainstream media who want to sell eyeballs and newspapers, well, they're certainly running her at the top of their headlines most nights. Give me your sense of things.
Well, I wouldn't trust anything that Greens have to say to start with, Peter. And in terms of people who have had a very long career in politics, Sarah Hanson-Young is one of them. So I think that's a little bit rich coming from her. Look, I think also I would say to viewers, and I'm sure they're doing this themselves, have a really careful look at what the reports are actually saying and the allegations that are being made about what Senator Pauline Hanson says versus perhaps the facts of what she said. I think that on occasions she doesn't express things as well as perhaps she could, but when it comes to immigration in particular, which the current debate seems to be focused around, we know that she is reflecting the genuine concerns of a lot of Australians that we have a real problem with the level of immigration at the moment, with Labor letting in 1.5 million people, more than we have living in Adelaide in a few short years. that we are welcoming people who don't necessarily share our values, who don't respect our Judeo-Christian values, our Westminster parliamentary system, things like equality for women. They don't respect other cultures. And we have seen that Jewish Australians in particular feel really unsafe. And that is not an outcome we want for Australia. So I totally understand why people are interested in what Senator Hanson has to say, particularly on immigration. And it's a really big challenge for the coalition to get across as well.
And this is, of course, played out, Nick Cater, as you know, in the United Kingdom. It's played out a little bit in the United States, but I think the best parallel is in Britain. They pushed away this immigration issue. They buried the cultural concerns. So not just the numbers coming in, but the change of the culture by some of the people coming into the country. They've pushed this away for many, many years, and now they have this outbreak with Farage and you know, beyond him and many others speaking out. And it's a big, big problem for the two major parties over there. You have that playing out in Australia, Nick, and the more that you push this away and you pretend it's not a genuine debate to have, it will just go underground. I mean, I think the genie's out of the bottle. I think Australians are desperate for this debate to be had on adult terms, and they want it to be a fair and genuine and temperate debate, absolutely, but they don't want it shut down.
No, exactly. I mean, most Australians, the polling will show you, most Australians are still solidly in favour of immigration. Most Australians have no problem with the fact that we take migrants from just about every country in the world. They do have a problem with those who don't want to come here and become Australian and want to try and turn this country into something else. That's what we have a problem with. That's what we've got to focus on. But they do have a problem with the numbers and the sense that things are out of control. We don't have the illegal migration problem that we had back in 2013 when the Gillard government left, thank goodness, but we have an equally difficult problem to deal with, and that's the number of temporary migrants coming in, particularly on student visas, people who are staying on bridging visas. It's creating this whole pool of 3 million people in Australia, but not part of it, on temporary visas of one sort and another. That didn't used to exist, and that's what's giving people the sense that this is out of control. And they simply want it brought back under control, and then they can support the policy again. But this is going to play right into One Nation's hands. But I do think that the coalition have actually been doing well on this. I just don't think that they've been necessarily heard above the noise.
Pauline Hanson is not some novelty act anymore. Recent polling has One Nation sitting close to 30%, trading blows with Labor for top spot, while the coalition limps along nowhere near the podium. That is not a protest vote passing through. That is millions of Australians looking at both major parties and saying, quite politely, we are sick of the lot of you. Think of it like a restaurant where the two big chains keep serving the same bland menu, and suddenly a food truck up the road starts selling what people actually ask for. Of course there is a queue. But here's where it gets interesting. The immigration conversation driving a lot of this is not really about legality. Nobody serious is arguing people should break the rules. It's about scale and permanence. Around 1.5 million net migrants arriving in a short window is roughly the population of Adelaide showing up overnight, with millions more on temporary visas living in a kind of national waiting room, in the country but never quite settled in it. When mainstream parties avoid that conversation for years, they do not make the anxiety disappear. They just hand the microphone to whoever is willing to talk about it. Britain learned that lesson with Brexit. Australia may be next in line. Now, from immigration to something a little closer to your hip pocket, let's head south to Victoria.
All right, a quick one for both of you before I go. Nick Cater, these revelations today, I started at the top of the program talking about what I had observed overseas, but I also then talked about Victoria and why the Victorian state election in November is actually an election that everyone in Australia should care about, because if Victoria continues to fail, every Australian will bear the consequences. These revelations that the former Victorian Labor Treasurer Tim Pallas sought a federal government bailout on a rescue plan in 2024 only just underscores these problems.
Well, they do, because, I mean, the Victorian government is claiming that it's financially secure and the rest, but it has the largest borrowing per capita of any state, any per capita of any state in the country. Spending is out of control. It's giving money away to the Scots, for goodness sake, to run the Commonwealth Games. But at the bottom line is, if the state of Victoria goes broke, it is the Commonwealth that bails it out. It is the rest of us. And so this will have it's already having an enormous impact on our economy more broadly, but it will have a direct impact if Victoria gets into such trouble that it needs a bailout. And that's not entirely off the cards right now, Peter.
While Canberra debates culture and identity, Victoria has been quietly running up one of the largest debt loads in the country. The state auditor has projected gross debt could hit somewhere around $228 billion by 2028, and Victoria now carries the lowest credit rating of any state. Picture maxing out several credit cards while still booking flights business class. Eventually, the bank calls, and in this case, the bank is the Commonwealth, meaning taxpayers everywhere could end up covering Victoria's tab. Put these threads together and a pattern appears. A hollowed-out political centre, a migration debate left to fester instead of being managed, a state government spending like the bill never comes due. None of these are separate stories. They are symptoms of the same fatigue. Major parties reacting late to problems they helped create, while everyday Australians are left footing the bill and searching for someone, anyone, willing to actually listen. Thanks so much for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.